So, a lot of times, the first book I wrote called You Heard Me, the basic theme was there's two stories out there. The one, you're being fed, the consumer, and the truth. And in my life, the first time I saw this was I was a little boy in rural Washington State. And the Harlem Globetrotters, well, they were a likeness. Maybe it was the East Harlem Globetrotters. They were advertised as the Harlem Globetrotters came to my town. And so my dad bought me tickets, very good seats. And it was in Hoquiam, Washington. And I was all excited because I'd seen him on television. And Curly Neal dribbling around and Meadowlark Lemon half-court shots. Well, we got there. And before we got there, my dad was late. He was a workaholic. He picked me up. He was late. We drove, and we went into an alley. And the Harlem Globetrotter bus was there, and the guys were drinking beer and smoking. The Globetrotters. And so the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, these guys are smoking and drinking before the game. Only I know that. I saw it because we pulled into an alley. We had to back up and then go find a parking garage or a parking space. And I remember thinking, I knew something special. Like everybody else saw the Globetrotters, I'm like, that guy's got a buzz and that guy's a chain smoker. I got behind the wall. Like they didn't want you to see that. They didn't want us to see it. Like we made eye contact with them. Globetrotters are like, you're not supposed to see that. We're smoking Marlboros and knocking down Bud Light. If there was Bud Light then. Anywho, the point being, there's a story behind the story. So last year, the LA Rams, there was, Sean McVay would say, the reason we're not using Todd Gurley is I'm an idiot. This is all on me. That was the story the Rams were projecting. But I live in Los Angeles and know players and people on the staff. That wasn't the real story. The story is Todd Gurley got paid and Todd Gurley got hurt and Todd Gurley changed. He's not great for the locker room right now. And they've wanted him out for a year, and they can't figure how to get rid of him. They don't want him there. Now, they could keep him there, draft another running back, and have him sulk. But the truth is, he got his money, he got hurt, and it's not the same Todd Gurley, and it's not personality-wise kind of the same Todd Gurley. It's not great for the room. It's not that he's a bad guy or a bad teammate, but it's not good for the room, and they're trying to get out of it. Now, a lot of this is Les Snead, the general manager. And I like Les, and I know Les, and I like him. He likes skill people. Brandon Cooks deal, I hated it. Todd Gurley early, didn't like it. Jared Goff, I understand. I'll defend him on the Jared Goff because I do think Jared Goff has proven he got to a Super Bowl. He beat Drew Brees in New Orleans. Call or not, Jared Goff is a franchise quarterback. Gurley, don't pay running backs early. Brandon Cooks didn't like it. But it's L.A. They were a new team. They got to sell tickets. It's a distracted market. They didn't really have a face of the franchise outside of Todd Gurley. So their thing was, he's our face. Let's pay him. I wouldn't have done it, but I get it. So the reality is now, though, is this story is now coming out. Todd Gurley to get cut. You don't understand. If the Rams cut him, they'd have to take a cap hit of $13 million this year, $9 million next year, $10 million the following year, and $12.5 million in 2023. And they're considering cutting him. That tells you it's not just, we would have given him the ball more, but as a coach, I forgot he was back there. No. It's like my Globetrotter story. There's a truth, and the truth is ugly, and the Globetrotters didn't want you to know they were smoking Marlboros and knocking down Coors Light right before tip-off. The Rams didn't want you to know this, but it's so bad and so unhealthy right now for them, there's stories out that could cut him. Don't think they will. I think they're looking to trade him. In fact, I know they are. Not going to get many takers. It's going to be one of those contracts. Remember the Sam Bradford contract? He signed a huge contract, good rookie year. Second year, he got hurt. And it kind of changed the CBA. The Jamarcus Russell, Sam Bradford contracts, Jamarcus was a bust. Bradford underachieved and got hurt. It kind of changed the CBA. People said you can't pay a rookie quarterback that much. If they get hurt or if they bad, you're trapped. I think this Gurley contract is going to hurt a lot of running backs. Like a lot of teams are like, no. No thanks. Now, that's not to say Saquon Barkley wouldn't be worth big money, but again, if you get 2 more good years out of Saquon Barkley, you may have the best years out of him. I just think this Gurley deal is a cautionary tale for a lot of NFL teams at that position. And, it's funny, like things change. 3-point shooters in the NBA are a premium. Power forwards are not. It goes back and forth. Wide receivers are now a premium. Quarterbacks are a premium. Left tackles are a premium. A great corner's a premium. Running backs, they're not. This is the way sports is. It's cyclical. Sometimes you pay for things, sometimes you don't. Years ago, fullbacks. Then they disappeared for a decade. Now, you know what's in vogue? A good fullback. New England's running game wasn't nearly as good last year without their fullback. San Francisco's running game this year was as good as the health of their fullback. So, football's been one of these sports. You see it in everything. Baseball now, bullpens as valuable or more valuable as starters. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, the Cincinnati Reds dominated baseball and had one decent reliever. It was starting pitching and offense. And then baseball went into a lot of starting pitching. You paid huge money for starting pitching. Now it's bullpens. Now it's home run hitters. Now nobody wants ground ball hitters. Sport in basketball, if you can't shoot, Clint Capella, not a lot of teams want you. Can't have two non-shooters on the floor at the same time. Total liability in today's NBA. Here's another quick story. Talking to a friend in the restaurant business. And he was talking about the wine business is kind of bougie. Napa, Sonoma, Italy, Rieslings in Germany, and, it's very high-end. Wine is very sophisticated. If you wear glasses and drink wine, your IQ, it's been verified, it'll go up dramatically. And so the wine business, a lot of Silicon Valley money, a lot of Hollywood money, a lot of athlete money in the last 10, 15, 20 years has gone into making wine. The problem is now, there's so many craft beers, and there's so many good liquors, and there's vodka and tequila brands. There's too much wine and not enough wine drinkers. It's oversaturated in the market. It's harder to make money in wine. And I'm thinking about that. Cam Newton has no market right now. No market. And I looked this morning. If we figure the Bengals will draft a quarterback, the Chargers will draft a quarterback, and the Dolphins will draft a quarterback. And I still think the Colts, if available, will draft one. That'll be 4 teams with a quarterback. And the college quarterbacks now, the hit rate is much higher than even 5 years ago. Outside of like a Paxton Lynch, nobody is a bust. Like everybody works kind of. Baker's not a bust. Baker's not a bust. Baker's had his problems. He's not a bust. Darnold's not a bust. Again, dysfunctional organizations, hasn't been as good as we thought, but not busts. They can play. If you look right now, if the Bengals and the Dolphins and the Chargers and perhaps the Colts draft a quarterback, we have saturation. It's like wine. We've reached the saturation point. The Patriots don't have a quarterback. The Jaguars don't. And the Chicago Bears have 2. They're not in love with either Foles and Trubisky. You're getting to a point where the NFC West has Jared Goff, Jimmy G, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. They may not need a quarterback for 10 years in that division. Wentz, Prescott, Daniel Jones, and Dwayne Haskins. If Dwayne Haskins hits, and I still think he's a big, strong kid who can throw strikes, they may not need a quarterback in that division for 8 to 10 years. I mean, you start looking around. Lamar, Big Ben, and Baker Mayfield. After the Bengals draft Joe Burrow, that division may not need a quarterback for 4 years, and then if the Steelers draft somebody, it'll be another 8. We've reached the saturation point. There's not a lot of market for a semi-committed, often injured, inaccurate, 85 quarterback rating Cam Newton. There's just not much of a market for it. These college quarterbacks are coming to the NFL. The NFL now is putting their arms around college concepts, and they're hitting. Don't say Josh Rosen yet. Do not give up on Josh Rosen. I saw this morning somebody suggested, and I don't think it's a terrible suggestion. I think this is very interesting. Bill Belichick and Brian Flores are tight. Belichick calls and says, send Josh Rosen up here. Super smart. I think Josh Rosen, Jarrett Stidham, see who wins the job. That is not crazy. Get him for cheap. And I think Josh Rosen, I'll say this, that is the perfect place for him. A demanding academic head coach, By the way, Josh Rosen's family knows the Northeast very well. I'm not going to give you the specific island, but they go out there all the time. Josh knows the area. I think Josh Rosen in New England is as good as he can do. And I think if I was New England, I'm not going to give Jarrett Stidham the job. I want to push him. Why should I pay all that money for Andy Dalton? Bring Josh Rosen up. Push Jarrett Stidham. That makes a lot of sense. And we know Flores and Belichick are tight. In fact, I think they've already done a deal or two. They've been on the phone. Because I just saw a situation. I think I don't have it in front of me, but Miami has already done and made a couple of moves with Patriot players. So just keep that in mind.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.